We want to thank you for coming out to our employee recognition ceremony. We want to thank all the families that are joining their family members that will be receiving awards today. Thank you for allowing them to dedicate so much service to the city of St. Petersburg. We're very proud of them. We want to recognize our officials that are here today. We have Tish Elston, our city administrator. We have Councilman Dudley and Councilman Gerdes. If you all would like to have comments, come on up.
I feel compelled to say something because I have every one of these things. And I want to thank all of you for your many, many years of service. And, you know, there's always that question, do you have a job or do you have a career? And when you spend as much time as this, it's no longer a job, it's a career. And thank you from the residents of this great city. That the reason it is a great city is because of what you put into it. And I want to thank you very, very much for your many, many years of service. And for those of you who are going to actually retire, Godspeed and thank you. And for those of you who are still going to work, keep up good work. And when your time comes, just you'll know it. And, you know, just thanks for everything. And Mr. Curtis, would you like to say something?
Thank you, Councilman Dudley. I'll be real quick. Just from the bottom of my personal heart and from everything within me, and I know for all the people that I represent, a huge, huge thank you to all of you. Those of you that are being recognized today that work for the city, as well as those of you who work for the city that aren't being recognized today. All of you, you know, you are our city to its citizens, and you just do excellent, excellent work. I couldn't be prouder of being associated with you. And you know, we get invited to a lot of things. Every day on my desk, there's 9 or 10 invitations to go to stuff. I wasn't going to miss this, and I hope you know that the reason I'm here is because I so much appreciate what you do. Thank you. Keep it up. If I can ever help any of you, please don't hesitate to call.
Okay, and I'm Helene Neal. I wanted to also let you know that the mayor is going to be a little late this morning, but we'll have him come up for comments at the point that he arrives, and we'll go ahead and call up our first recipient. We're going to ask Captain Zweifel if he'll come up, Captain Scott Zweifel. He will be presenting a Hats Off Award to firefighter Rob Henderson.
Good morning. Morning. Rob, if you wouldn't mind stepping forward, please. I think Rob's bio is probably going to take 2 or 3 minutes, so let me get started with that. He's been with St. Petersburg Fire and Rescue for 29 years. He's presently assigned to Station 3, which is the busiest station in Pinellas County. It's the Palmetto Park Station. Rob is firefighter, EMT, driver, engineer, fire inspector, arson investigator, fire instructor, CPR instructor, and also a mentor. Quite the resume. The reason that Rob's here is one of my jobs is right now I'm assigned to the rescue division. In the rescue division, obviously EMS is our focus in that division, and when we hear of incidents like this with individuals like Rob, it makes us very proud to know that what we're doing on and off duty. At the time of the incident, Rob was off duty, and the incident occurred on May 19th of this year. Rob was at an awards banquet to where he was being honored for his mentoring in the community. At the banquet, the president, Ms. Nesbitt, was up speaking. After she was finished speaking, she went and sat back down at her seat and then collapsed. She suffered from sudden cardiac arrest, which is basically either her heart went into a lethal rhythm or it's just stopped completely. Rob, along with Officer Oliver, which we will bring up in just a few minutes, were able to rush to her side. We're able to do a thorough and rapid assessment of her condition. And actually, and with that, Ms. Nesbitt had just actually entered the room. Would you like to come up, Ms. Nesbitt, with us? We'll bring you up, Miles. For, I guess, just to kind of stop for us in fire and rescue and in EMS, to see somebody that suffered this type of condition, to actually come up and actually see them walking, talking, this is really an honor for us in the EMS community to be able to see that. And of course, it makes us very proud and very honored to know that we have individuals like Rob, and if Lieutenant Oliver could please also come up and join us, that were able to rush to her side, perform high-quality CPR until the ALS units or advanced life support units arrived. She is obviously up talking, and her condition is obviously very well. Not only will Rob be receiving the Hats Off Award today, we also would like to acknowledge Lieutenant Oliver. He was also 26 years with St. Petersburg Police Department, retired, is now a lieutenant with USF. St. Pete Fire and Rescue would also like to thank him for his assistance to one of our personnel. And again, we just want to reaffirm how proud we are of Rob, Lieutenant Oliver. We are very glad of the positive outcome for President Nesbitt of her organization. She is the president of the Ladies of Distinction organization. We certainly appreciate what they do in the community, and also what Rob and Lieutenant Oliver do in mentoring young folks in the community, putting them on a good path. So with that, I'd like to congratulate both gentlemen.
Next, we're going to have Phil Whitehouse come up. He'll be presenting a Hats Off Award to Jesus Morales.
Could I ask Jesus to come up here with his family? And please don't think the meeting's over when you see everybody rise. This is going to take a while. I'd like to introduce Jesus Morales, his wife Lily, his children Ariel, Alejandro, Aiden, Azariah, Anthony, and Abigail. Did I miss anybody? I also believe your parents are here, Wanda and Jorge Antunes in the back there. You're certainly welcome to come up and join us. Thank you. It's a real pleasure here to give Jesus this Hats Off Award. Jesus is the maintenance mechanic 2 in the Parks and Recreation Department. Back in February, he was working at one of our parks, Bay Vista Park, as an irrigation mechanic, just working on irrigation. Fortunately, he had a shovel in his hand at the time because he was working in the park and he heard some screams. And when he looked up, he was just preparing to dig into a valve, and he heard these screams and started running towards the area where he heard the noise. He had the shovel with him, thankfully, because when he got there, he encountered a woman with her dog on a leash that was being mauled by a pit bull. Now, many of you are pet owners, I'm sure, and you all realize that the pets are many times just like family members. Such was the case here. This lady was really very attached to her dog, and this dog was actually being killed at the time. Jesus went up to his shovel and with his shovel and rather forcefully encouraged the pit bull to release this dog. And he had to encourage him several times. But he did it, and he got the dog away. He protected not only the dog that was being mauled, but also the family members who were trying to get involved and would probably have been hurt seriously, as well as himself. And for that, they wrote, "The action taken by Jesus not only saved the life of our dog, but protected us and others." St. Petersburg police and local animal control members were involved. The family is very thankful their dog survived and that no one else was seriously injured. Congratulations to Jesus for performing above and beyond his normal duties to protect his fellow citizens and their pet by demonstrating our city's mission and values. Jesus, thank you very much.
Before we continue, I'd like to recognize our City Council Chairperson, Leslie Curran, who has arrived, and if you'd like to have any comments, we'd like you to come on up.
Good morning, everyone. I felt like one gay there for a minute, running in late. Just kidding. Just kidding. Had to say that. We all tease Wenge. We love him to death, but we always have one thing we can hold on him, and that's it. And I think it's because he's got so many other things that he's out there doing. It's just really great to be here. Every time we have these awards, you know, the Hats Off Awards that we just heard about, just really tells us what we have in this city with our workforce. I mean, we couldn't do it without you. We hear from our constituents all the time about the good things that all of you in this room do. So I want you to know that I really appreciate it. And if I just had that magic wand, I'd give you all 2 days off. But what can you say? It's another great event here today, and we are all very appreciative of what you do. So thank you very much.
We'll go ahead and move on with the ceremony. We're going to ask Administrator of Leisure and Community Services, Clarence Scott, if he'll come up and present an award for us.
Would you please join me in recognizing and celebrating Phil Whitehouse for 35 years of service? It's kind of hard to recognize someone in 2 minutes for 35 years of service, but I'll do my best. Phil started his career with the city on May 10th in 1977 as a recreation aide 2. The interesting part of the backstory is that he basically hopped on his motorcycle after graduating from the University of Massachusetts, put his young wife Cindy on the back of the motorcycle and headed to Florida with no job, no place to live, just a positive outlook on life and the promise of lots of good fishing. It was a great day for the city of St. Petersburg when Phil came to work for us, and the good news is he still has a positive outlook. He still has his wife, Cindy, and he's still fishing every chance he gets. But the motorcycle is gone. Although Phil is probably best known for his many years working with Al Lang and dealing with professional baseball and spring training, he has a huge amount of experience with turf management, and he actually has had a variety of different experiences during his 35 years in Parks and Rec. For instance, he worked at Gladden Park Rec Center and the old Azalea Rec Center. And at one point, he was in charge of citywide special events and was very active in the early years of getting the Main Sail Art Show up and running. As you can imagine, he's had numerous supervisors and numerous evaluations over the years, but always the same outstanding performance ratings. Phil is very customer service oriented, extremely conscientious, a real team player, and is always professional and courteous. Phil is currently serving as the Parks and Recreations Field Operations Superintendent and is an extremely valuable resource as the two large departments, Parks and Recreation, merged into one department. His parks knowledge and experience has been critical to a smooth transition. Additionally, Phil is a point person and a critical team member involved in the city's hurricane and disaster response activities. As most people know, and as I said earlier, he loves fishing, he loves his boat, and he loves the lobster in the Keys. In his spare time, he has also served as the vice president of the Old Salts Fishing Foundation, which donates over $500,000 annually to worthy causes in the area. Phil is happily married to his wife, Cindy, for the past 38 years. They have 2 adult children, Dave and Kelly, and this is a huge, major announcement. He's about to become a first-time grandfather. So again, please join me in recognizing and celebrating Phil Whitehouse on 35 years of service.
Next, we will ask Muslim Gadawala to come up from the ICS department. He will be presenting an award to Gary Adams.
Good morning. It gives me great pleasure to welcome Gary Adams, who's receiving his 30-year award for service with the city. Gary started as a computer operator one at a time when the data center ran 24/7. We were staffed round the clock. That was, from a technology standpoint, completely different time frame, and Gary and I were just talking about the fact that back then we used punch cards and everything was paper-based, and most of the young folks don't even know what a punch card is anymore. But in about 6 months, Gary was promoted to computer operator 2, and interestingly, when he was hired in a fill-in position. He worked what we call the split shift, which basically meant his normal hours were from 1 o'clock to 9 o'clock, but he was the fill-in person. So anytime somebody was on vacation, sick, Gary got to step in and take their shift. So he was all over the place working. And I guess, you know, he got a lot of experience out of that doing different things. Like I said, in 6 months, he was promoted to a computer operator 2, and in about a year, he was promoted to a computer operator 3. But what came with the promotion was the graveyard shift. So he worked from midnight to 8 a.m. That was interesting and stuff, but I guess he didn't really like working those hours much. So in '86, he moved to second shift supervisor, which was 4 to midnight, still not the greatest time to work. And then about '89, he got lucky and could move to the first shift, or the day shift, which is typically an 8 to 4 shift. In 2001, Gary was promoted to his current position, computer operations supervisor. And basically, the data center is kind of morphed from being a 24/7 with about, I think at its peak, we had 12 to 14 people running the data center. And today, I think there's a staff of 4 that runs it. We're not in a 24/7 mode, but we still operate anytime during the day or night. If there is somebody that needs support, a person's available to help them out. Gary's a very interesting person in as much as he has taught himself a lot of skills that typically you would not associate with a shift supervisor or somebody running operations. He's taught himself COBOL, SQL, CL, Formscapes, Crystal Reports, all of these programming languages, and he uses a lot of that to help develop different forms, different kinds of things that are not really part of his job, but just because of his nature and the way he works, he's taken a lot of that upon himself. Almost all of the forms that the city uses have been designed in some way, shape, or form by Gary, including things like our utility bills that all citizens get. one of his latest projects was working with the United Way cards. And I'm going to just read a brief email I received from Lynn Powell about Gary. Gary, I had a good time working with you throughout this project, and the project was the redesign on the United Way cards because she is the United Way coordinator this year. Your idea to add logo with people was perfect, and you caught a few lines I missed in the draft. I really appreciate all your help. And these are the kinds of kudos that Gary's got all through his career for things that are really not even part of his job. You know, redesigning United Way forms, I don't think is anywhere in his job description at all. So that's, Gary's married to Patty. Patty also works with the city, with the ICS department actually, and she's been with the city 28 years. So both of them love traveling and music. And in Gary's own words, quote, "It's always great to see a favorite band at a legendary venue such as Radio City Music Hall or Wolf Trap Park for the performing arts. Patty and I have come to love New Orleans, the food, music, and culture. We also try to get to Washington, D.C. every year or two for a concert, sporting event, or general sightseeing. New York City is always in the mix for a potential return visit. We have some great times in Times Square. It's a great country out there, and we want to see as much of it as we can. But just to round out all the arts and the culture and the music, Gary's also a very avid sports fan, and he's got season tickets for the Rays, the Lightning, and the Storm. Not the Bucks, huh? Well, they need some people in the seats so we can watch the games. And lastly, Gary just wanted me to thank Gordon, the late Gordon Stover, who hired him, all of his staff, past and present, and most of all, his wife, Patty. So help me in congratulating Gary for 30 years and lots more. So you want to come up for the picture? Come up for the picture. And this is Joe Braun, his supervisor.
Next, we will have Beth Herendine come up and present an award.
Good morning. It is my pleasure to recognize Burgess Petch this morning for 20 years of service. I will give Bergie a moment to lock down that camera so he can come join me. Thank you, Councilmember Dudley. Okay. Burgess Petch started with the city in 1992. He came to us from West Virginia, where he started his adult life working in the coal mines. He spent 3 years in the Army as a combat engineer and demolition specialist, skills which translated very nicely to his next career as a hairstylist. While working as a stylist, Bergie went back to school to pursue a degree in TV production. He worked at Vision Cable right here in Pinellas County before coming to St. Pete to work with the city's television channel. When he arrived in St. Pete, the station was less than 2 years old, just in its infancy, and he is the one and only crew member remaining from those early days. He's worked through the transition of WSPF TV from cable to broadcast and now to its digital environment. He helped to develop much of the station's programming, and along the way has worked with 3 station managers, 4 marketing directors, and 3 mayors. Everyone here today that's celebrating 20 or more years with the city has worked through some amazing transitions. However, only Bergie has viewed all of those from a different perspective, from behind the lens of a St. Pete TV camera. Going where no camera had gone before, Bergie has the reputation as our most adventurous crew member. and maybe our most mischievous, definitely our most adventurous. He's been down inside the city sewer system and along for rides on sanitation trucks. He's hovered above powerboat and Grand Prix races in a helicopter and taped an oil tanker on fire in the bay from a bow of a police boat. He's often in the mule that's behind the leader of the pack at a triathlon or a marathon race, and has also been along for the ride during a police drug bust and a house fire, and some other interesting operations. When the Olympic torch came through our city in 1996, he was there to tape its historic flame. He recorded baseball's first pitch at the Trop, and captured the excitement of the men's Final Four in 1999. Even today, as you saw, he's the one on the other side of the camera lens. Along the way, Bergie's met his fair share of celebrities, whether it's 3 of the last 4 presidents, any one of the last 6 Miss Floridas, the one and only Flo Rida, Big Mike Lynch, Mike Allstott, Winky Wright, Danica Patrick, or our beloved Dan Weldon, just to name a few. Through all of this, though, Bergie has never lost sight of the core mission of St. Pete TV, to share with the public the activities and workings of their city and its government. Whether council or committee meetings or specials on sprinkling or codes compliance, Bergie takes the job of communicating with the public seriously. And for that, I am very, very grateful. When Bergie isn't recording the events as they happen in St. Pete, he can most often be found on his Harley. Whether it's Bike Week in Daytona, winding through the North Georgia mountains, or an across-the-country ride, Berg is most comfortable on the seat of his bike or enjoying a camping trip out in the woods. And when he comes home, he is greeted by his 2 beautiful babies/dogs, Daisy and El Guapo. So Bergie, I am very grateful for all of your service, and I ask everyone to join me in recognizing and celebrating Bergie.
I just want to say one thing real quick. Whoever thought government television was boring has never worked in government television.
Thank you. Next, we will have Tom Gibson of the Engineering Department come up and present an award.
Please join me in recognizing Edward Ringwald for his 25 years of service. Edward's education includes an associate degree in word processing management from St. Petersburg College, which he obtained in 1987, and further associate in science and legal assisting from Hillsborough Community College, which he obtained in 1997. Edward joined the engineering department in 1987 as an office systems specialist in our records section, and he was assigned the task of creating the first databases regarding our engineering records when we started converting to digital systems. His supervisors have always commended him for his work initiative. His speed and proficiency on a number of our software systems is the best in the department. In 1997, Edward was promoted to the position of engineering clerk, and in this capacity performs a number of administrative duties, including serving as the records custodian when we have public information requests. Edward has been a resident of the city of St. Petersburg for 46 years. He has a sister here locally, Mary, who's with us today, and 1 nephew. He participated in the Great American Teach-In at 3 schools during 2005 and introduced students to web design.
Yes.
He also serves on the board of directors at his condominium association, Windward Point. He served as secretary from 2003 to 2008, and then again from 2010 to present. And when he's not at work, Edward enjoys web design and maintaining his web sites, edwardringwald.com and interstate275.com.
It's interstate275florida.com.
Gotcha.
Thanks, Edward.
Edward is extremely reliable. He's very competent with our administrative duties and our computer systems. We rely on him for complex and large volumes of public information requests, dealing with those requesters and providing the documents, keeping track of everything. He's very proficient at that. He's very useful in our grant administration process as well. He's our Davis-Bacon coordinator for our federal grants, which is key to receiving the grant monies. We're reimbursed after the fact, provided we comply with all the grant requirements. Edward, congratulations on your 25 years of service.
Thank you, Tom. Well, if I could only get this kind of a turnout for either my annual Great American Teach-In or my monthly Windward Point Condominium Board meetings. Well, I just wanted to say that it's an honor for 25 years of service, and to me, it feels like it was yesterday. I just want to say to all my coworkers, just want to say thank you very much, and I look forward to many more years. Thank you.
Next, we're going to ask Mike Jeffries to come up. He's with our Parks and Recreation Division of Community Administration.
Thank you. Good morning. I would like to invite Jared Dowse and his girlfriend Ashley to come up, please. Excellent. I have just a heartwarming story to share with you. Jared is the recipient of our Hats Off Award for the Parks and Recreation Department. And I will tell you that there's a lot that we do in the Parks and Recreation Department, and rarely do we have the honor of actually saving a life. I will tell you that Gerard was working at the Lake Vista Recreation Center, had worked a long day supervising a play camp, a group of kids. As you can imagine, after 8 hours of Coach Gerard, we want to do this. Coach Gerard, can we go to the bathroom? Coach Gerard, can we go to the playground? After having a very long day, Coach headed home to relax. He told me when we talked a little bit about it, he said he headed home to have a beverage. I didn't get into details as to what the beverage actually was, but I'm sure it was well-deserved. And when he arrived home, he actually found a family member was visiting with an 18-month-old. And as the visit progressed, he noticed that the toddler was more and more sluggish. And at one point, he realized that the toddler had actually stopped breathing. And as you can imagine, the mother certainly was in panic. And Gerard's skills, his CPR training, his first aid training kicked in, and he took command of the situation. And basically, Gerard was able to revive this toddler, and when the paramedics arrived, the paramedics were actually able to receive a breathing, crying 18-month-old. So as sincerely as I can possibly say it, I would like to honor and thank Gerard for his efforts and for the success. And I think we would like to end this by requesting that each and every one of you in the room seek out CPR training, seek out first aid training, because you truly never know when you're going to need it. So if you could help me give Gerard a round of applause, I would appreciate it. Thank you. I'm going to move on now to my longevity awards. And again, I could not be more proud this morning as we give Gerard his Hats Off Award. And next, I would like to invite Ed Johnson to come up to the front for his 30-year longevity award. Please bring your wife and daughter as well. Excellent. Ed has invited his wife Cynthia and his daughter Michaela to the front, which we're happy to have you. Stand right here. Ed is a maintenance worker 2 currently. He started out as a maintenance worker 1 out at Childs Park, and then he moved to Wildwood, and he was promoted in 2000 to a maintenance worker 2. I will tell you that Ed is absolutely one of our most dedicated employees. I will tell you that being a maintenance worker certainly is a very challenging job, as you can imagine. We have 400, 500 kids running through our programs every day, and Ed constantly smiles and constantly has a friendly greeting for anybody who's using our facilities. Ed is extremely active as a referee for youth basketball, and he also volunteers for our Tasco basketball league as a referee as well. I can tell you that I've seen Ed firsthand be a mentor and a role model to the kids who are in our program. And as you know, you've read the paper, you know the statistics, it's phenomenal to have a male as a role model, somebody who can give guidance and can help build those core values that we're so desperately trying to build in our participants. Ed is also one of our go-to guys when it comes to our basketball floor refinishing crew. And I will tell you, I've actually been out there on one of the weekends when they're redoing the basketball floors, and that is an amazing job. Ed and his team, they saved the city thousands of dollars by doing the basketball refinishing in-house. If you have a recreation center with a gym, and if we have a faulty basketball floor or a basketball floor that's wearing thin or has safety hazards, as you can imagine, that's a very big deal. And Ed and his team, they're able to go in off hours, sand the floors, seal the floors, mark the floors, and get us back in business again, which is absolutely critical. So just one of his many, many hats. When I asked about humorous stories, and I should have remembered this because Ed and I actually worked together out at Willis S. Johns many, many years ago. One of the most humorous stories, Ed is a die-hard football fan and constantly would place bets with individuals that if his team won, they would have to wear that hat for a day. And the best one, and correct me if I'm wrong, I think it was Rick Kraft. Rick Kraft didn't get to wear his FSU hat. He had to wear the UF hat for a week, which, as you can imagine, was a big, big deal. So definitely fun camaraderie. Prior employment, Ed started his professional career at KC Steel, worked there for a while, and then came to the city of St. Petersburg and has been with us ever since. So we're truly blessed to have him. As you can imagine, again, having an athlete who is on site, who's able to give guidance and give help to both the young boys and the girls of our program certainly help guide and give guidance as needed. So if you would help me in thanking Ed for 30 years of service.
Real quickly, I want to give thanks to my wife and my daughter because they said some encouraging words to me throughout since we've been together. My wife always say, "Aren't you getting up going to work this morning?" And my baby girl, she always say, "Dad, don't you get paid this week?"
Hard to follow those comments. Next, I would like to invite Wendell Russell and his family to come up to the podium. Again, we've got a large group. I will try to go through introductions. Joining Wendell this morning will be his wife, Kim, his mother Dorothy, his brother David, his sister-in-law Yvelle, and I'm not sure, did your son make it? Marcus, there we go, excellent. A long list, I have the whole family tree. This morning we're going to celebrate Wendell's 25th anniversary with the city. I can tell you that as I was describing Ed Johnson, Wendell is absolutely a mentor and a role model in our communities as well. And I cannot impress upon you how important that role model role actually is. Wendell is a maintenance worker 2. Wendell started as a maintenance worker 1 at Childs Park and then was promoted to our Wildwood Recreation Center as a maintenance worker 2 in 2000. Wendell helped us open our largest facility, the Wildwood Recreation Center. It's our only facility that has a double gym. And I can tell you that Wendell did not ever have a spare moment at Wildwood. That facility is one of our most utilized. We do more rentals, more activities at that facility than any other facility that we have. So Wendell was certainly hopping, that's for sure. Wendell is also a referee for TASCO. TASCO is our teen programs division of the Parks and Recreation Department. And as you can imagine, we teach more than just athletics. We teach core values. We teach right and wrong. We teach that you begin a game with a handshake and you end a game with a handshake. So Wendell and Ed both help facilitate that message. And I'll tell you, I can't think of 2 finer gentlemen to do that. Again, Wendell is part of our gym floor refinishing crew, works many overtime hours helping us refinish those gym floors, and again, saves us just a tremendous amount of money, allows us to have facilities and amenities in our programs that are second to none. Wendell is very interested in electronics. I can tell you that he is constantly asking me questions about computers and tablets and iPods and iPads and what do I think about this? And I remember when Wendell got his first computer and had a modem. I can barely remember what a modem is these days, but it had a modem and we worked on getting it configured and getting it set up. So Wendell has one of the nicest smiles you've ever seen. I absolutely love it when Wendell comes into the office with a smile and just an encouraging word. I will tell you that Wendell was a plant operator for the Pinellas County school system and decided to transfer over to St. Pete, which we're certainly happy to have him. He is a community basketball coach for high school and with his church. And I will tell you that Wendell is extremely active in his church and certainly is an active participant in that community as well. So Wendell is reaching the youth both professionally and in his personal life. Wendell loves to fish, absolutely fishes as often as he possibly can, and loves being with his family and friends. As you can see this morning, we have several generations with us this morning. Wendell, when we asked him what other information he would like to share, he indicated that he feels blessed to work with friends, and he feels blessed to work with a community and a group of people that are actually his second family. So if you would help me recognize Wendell for 25 years, thank you.
Good morning. I'm surprised I didn't hear that start in parks and end sanitation thing this morning. Seems like we seem to follow each other. But it's my pleasure this morning to introduce Tony Carcelli this morning. Tony started with his career in sanitation July 27, 1992 as a serviceman in the vehicle maintenance department. May 24, 1993, Tony was transferred to Container Maintenance Division after competing in all the requirements for a welder certificate. In July 1995, he was promoted to welder, a position he holds today. Tony was born in the Bronx, New York. You know that state, Tony. But Tony has a son, Anthony III, and two sons, Anthony III and Philip, and his wife, Patty. And he has one grandchild, Tyler. In his spare time, Tony enjoys fishing and buying and selling collectibles. He collects antique cars. But it's my pleasure to welcome and thank Tony for 20 years of service.
Next, we're going to ask Steve Levitt to come up with our Water Resources Department.
Good morning. Please allow me to introduce to you Mr. John Crutcher with 30 years of experience. And Debbie, if you want to come up too, please. Give me a shy bit. John moved into Florida in 1965, and prior to starting his career with the city of St. Petersburg in 1982, he enlisted in the Navy. He served aboard the aircraft carrier, the USS John F. Kennedy. John is our senior belt press operator, and that probably doesn't mean a lot to many of you. The belt press process is the one at the final end of the plant where we take our biosolids and we remove as much water as possible so that when we haul those biosolids out to an agricultural site for reuse, we can pay the minimum amount of hauling costs for that. And the process is unique. Within the city's Water Resources Department, we have a number of processes, a lot of equipment, both on the water side and the water reclamation side. The belt press process is the only process that we have that has a full-time dedicated operator to it. And we do that because of its critical nature and because it's a very sensitive process to run and to maintain. And the reality is, to operate the process, it's more of an art than a science. And John, with 30 years of experience, has been doing that day in and day out, day in and day out. It's a process that requires a lot of attention to details. There are a lot of adjustments, and if one of these adjustments go out of whack, you end up with a big mess on your hand, literally. So there's a lot of belt speeds to adjust, polymer feeds to adjust, and it's this constant vigilance and attention to detail that has enabled John to be a successful belt press operator. He's currently out at the Northeast Water Reclamation Facility, and in 2 or 3 weeks here, we're going to take his belt press away. We're replacing it with some new technology. He's going to be transferred down to the Southwest facility where we still have a belt press. In addition to that, we have another process that we've added in conjunction with the belt press, and that's a lime stabilization process. It's a second step after the belt press, and that too is a process that requires a lot of diligence, a lot of close monitoring and control, and John will be the perfect guy to fill in down there. John is an interesting character. That's probably not the right politically correct terminology today, but he has a wide variety of interests and hobbies. He's an amateur dowsing. He's improv theater. Can't even say the word. And he is interested in paranormal research enthusiasts. He and his wife, Debbie, have been married 36 years, and his mom is here with him today, too. They have one son, John, who's 31 years old. And in John's words, he is a classic homebody and loves to stay at home with his wife and his dog and his cat. So please join me in congratulating John on 30 years of service. Next, please welcome Tony Rivera with 30 years of experience. Tony and his wife, Marilyn. Tony's been with the city for 30 years. He started out in our water maintenance division of the Water Resources Department, where he did a wide variety of jobs, including water main repair, water main replacement, leak detection and leak stoppage, installation of new water meters. In addition, he also was operated the directional drill, which is a device that many of you have seen that goes underneath the ground without actually breaking the surface of the ground. And one of his most memorable events was the installation of a force main to the Dixie Hollins High School with the directional drill. And the challenging part of that was that before he could go reach Dixie High School, he had to go underneath Joe's Creek. So he had to direct the drill under the creek back up to the high school. John served in the water maintenance for about 26 years. The last 4 years, he has switched over and is an environmental specialist. And he works with the GREASE program. There, they monitor over 620 different facilities and institutions throughout the city. These are primarily restaurants and other food preparation services that have fats, oils, and grease issues. Tony is a very enthusiastic, positive person. He is very people-oriented, and all those skills are very helpful when he goes out to do the inspections as part of the GREASE program. Because the purpose of the inspections is not just to make sure that people are doing what they're supposed to be doing, but the real purpose is to educate them and to train them on why they're doing what they're doing. If they're doing it just because it's a law, they do it until we leave and then they go back and do it the old way. But as Tony is able to teach them and train them and educate them on the purpose of that, then they are able to continue doing it even after Tony has left. When he's not working, he and his wife enjoy riding the Harley, another bike rider, up and down the coast, listening to his Spanish salsa and merengue music, but not texting, right? Okay. He's always trying to improve himself and has constantly been kind of a go-to guy within the department for, like I said, for his positive attitude, his technical skills, and his ability pretty much to tackle any project that comes along. He and his wife, Marilyn, have been married 33 years. They have 2 sons, Antonio Jr. and Stephen Michael. Stephen, that's kind of a nice name. I like that. They have 4 grandsons, and in his words, finally, a granddaughter. So let's think about that. 2 sons, 4 grandsons, and 1 granddaughter. Now, I wonder if Grandpa is going to spoil that granddaughter. What do you think? Yeah, Mom is saying definitely. Huh? One of the things that keeps Tony going is he's a man of faith, and he's an active member of the Christian Church of God here in St. Pete. So please join me in congratulating him on 30 years. Next, we have Paul Zimmerman with 25 years of experience. Paul was born and raised in Upper Michigan, and in 1984 he saw the light and came to Florida. He's been with the city for 25 years, as I said. He is our industrial pretreatment coordinator. In that role, he oversees a staff of 12 individuals. He has 30 industrial pretreatment agreements that he maintains, and again, the 620, over 620 grease permits that he oversees. In his role, he's really the first line of environmental defense, if you will, for the city, because he keeps out of our system all the things that will either damage our system or will go through our system without being treated. Fats, oils, and greases end up being a problem where they plug all the pipelines, but there are other contaminants that industries and other facilities generate that will, if they get into our system, will actually go through the system without being treated at all and will end up out in the environment. And so Paul and his crew are really that first line of defense. Most recently, one of his biggest industrial pretreatment projects was a project that you might have heard, particularly if you live up in the kind of the northwest area of the city, and that's the Raytheon project. That cleanup, he's very instrumental in working with the Raytheon and the FDEP to get that permit. It's a very interesting process. They are going to literally heat the groundwater through the use of electrical heaters and the injection of steam that causes the pollutants to come out of the solution. They capture those vapors and then they treat them in a new treatment plant they have on site. And then the discharge from that facility through our pretreatment ordinance that Paul worked on comes into our system. So it was, as you all know, a very high-profile project, a lot of media attention, a lot of attention from the regulators, and so it was a very big, monumental milestone in his career to get that done. When he's not protecting the water resources of the state of Florida, he likes to go out and utilize the water resources of the state of Florida. He's an avid boater and a fisherman, not just a fisherman, fisherman. He records all these achievements as being an avid digital photographer, except the one that got away, right? You didn't get that one. That's probably because on those digital cameras, you know, there's always a little delay between them when you push the button and actually take the picture, right? So, he's also a little bit of an iron chef in him. He's a part-time cook at his local Catholic church during the Lenten season, and he's worked as a cook and a meal deliverer for the SHARE program in South St. Pete. He and his wife, like I said, have two sons, Paul Jr. and Patrick. His oldest son is an oboist, he was telling me, so if you need an oboist, we have one for you. So please join me in congratulating Paul. Next, we have James Griffin with 20 years of service.
Thank you.
James is a water utilities maintenance technician and principally works on the directional drill machine. This is the machine I referred to earlier that installs pipelines without actually cutting the soil. And it's a little bit of a tricky operation. It's not like if you're going to dig up a pipe where you just go out, you park the backhoe, and you just start digging. The operation of the directional drill takes a little bit of forethought, a little bit of planning. You've got to plan where you're going to insert the pipe, how fast you're going to go down, how deep you're going to go, and then when and where and how fast you're going to bring the pipe up. It's a lot of different steps that he has to choreograph in order to make that a successful project. And it's interesting that he likes to choreograph the dance, if you will, of the directional drill machine, because in his spare time, he and his wife like to enjoy choreographed ballroom dancing. So we see we have some open floor in the back there. Maybe we could have a little...
Oh, I had the wrong shoes.
Oh, the wrong shoes. It's always the shoes, huh? James and his wife Carol have been married 31 years. They're participants they're members of the Northside Baptist Church. They have 3 sons, Bruce, Jeffrey, and James. And if I could just go off on a little rabbit trail here, if you've been paying attention here, we've had 4 gentlemen that we've honored here today. Between them, they've had 8 children, and if you've been counting, they've all been boys. Tony had 3 grandsons before he got a girl. Now, I don't want to say that if you're a young couple starting out and you want to have a boy that you should come work for our department, but I just let the facts speak for themselves. You know. So, anyway, thank you, James, for your service, and many more years to come. Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Well, good morning. My name is Bill Foster. I'm the mayor of the city, and I'm so honored to be here today. I apologize for my delay in getting here. Today, this morning at 7 o'clock, I had breakfast with the mayor, and had quite a few people that wanted to come sit down and break bread and have a cup of coffee with me, and so it was a good experience. But I was delayed, but I wouldn't miss this opportunity for anything. And what I like so much about employee recognition is I get to learn a little snippet, a little snapshot of one's life as they've really dedicated their professional experience, their professional life to the city of St. Petersburg. And these are employees that we recognize, those in this room who've served 20, 25, 30, 35 years of dedicated, passionate, loyal service to the people of this community. And I get to meet people like James, John, and Paul. And there's a theme there too, if you think about it. The apostles, you know, Saint Tony is the only one that, Saint Antonio is the only one that kind of threw us off there on that apostle theme. But you know, I get to learn a little bit about what makes these professionals in their industry, what makes them tick, what drives them other than the 8, 10, 12 hours that they spend on a daily basis with the city of St. Petersburg. And I hear about John, who served our country as a veteran, who has spent multitudes of years as a belt press operator dealing with biosolids, okay? The people of the city, and I'll just speak, water resources is where I came in. So many of the people of the city think that when lines come into their homes, it's just a hole in the wall, it's a hole in the ground, and everyone expects when they wake up in the morning for 2 things to happen. One, that the water's on, that they can take their shower, they can brush their teeth, they can flush their toilet, and that it just works. It always magically works. And that too, when they do flush the toilet or when they do run their sink and things go into this hole in the ground, that it just magically disappears. And people don't really think about the knowledge and the experience and all of the things that it takes to provide safe drinking water to their home and to successfully treat the effluent that comes out, and yes, to press the biosolids so we can have a product that can go back out onto the landscaping in the form of reclaimed water. And so it's an amazing opportunity for us to educate the public, but it's humbling, so humbling for me as your mayor, because I get to see it. I get to meet you, even if it's just today. I get to know what it is that makes you tick and what it is that drives you to provide this dedicated service to the community. So yes, I picked on water resources, but I look around at all of the departments and I say thank you. Thank you for what you do for the city. It is stressful. We're talking about budgets and needs versus want. It is stressful. But you have dedicated many, many years to this passion of service to the community, and we can't pay you enough. So we say thank you today. We recognize you. We say thank you to your families, because not every day is a great day at work, and you know what? They have to put up with you when you get home. Thank you to spouses, to children, to parents, to loved ones. Thank you for sending your loved one off to work in the right frame of mind so they can serve the members of this community with distinction. So it's a humbling honor for me today to just be in your presence, and now we'll continue with the celebration. Thank you all.
Thank you, Mayor Foster, for your comments. Now we'll have Dave Goodwin come up. He's with the Planning and Economic Development Department.
Good morning. It's my pleasure to ask Scott Brown to come up to honor his 20 years of service in the Construction Services and Permitting Division. And also with him, I know I can't keep track of it, the department name, the divisions, I can't do it. Also with him is his immediate supervisor, Scott Crawford. I'll just say a few words about the importance of our inspection team to the overall work of our department and that division. They are out there day in and day out, working with the citizens, the contractors, the builders of our community at their building sites, their home sites, trying to get something done, trying to get some project completed, trying to invest in our community. And having a great group of inspectors that are out there showing up on time, who know their stuff, and are able to work with, because you never know what you're going to get out there. Scott will tell you.
They're working right now.
There are situations that require creativity in solving those situations, and Scott is one of those guys that can do that and bring resolution to those issues so the projects can move on in a timely manner, and we can have the great buildings in our community renovated or constructed new. So I want to thank Scott for that in his 20 years, and with that I'm going to turn it over to Scott Crawford, his supervisor and the deputy building official. Rick Dunn couldn't be here, the building official, and Scott will be here for him.
Good morning. Scott Brown is a former state president of the Florida Association of Plumbing, Gas, and Mechanical Inspectors. He's currently the state director for the Florida Association of Plumbing, Gas, and Mechanical Inspectors. Scott is a construction inspector with the Development Services, Planning and Economic Development Services Department and Construction Services and Permitting Division, also commonly referred to as the Building Department. Scott is also a member of the Building Officials Association of Florida. One of Scott's hobbies and things that he enjoys and interests is traveling, and particularly to Asian countries. He likes to travel with his wife's son. As you can probably imagine, working for the building department can be a very stressful, difficult, and challenging job. And it's a position that Scott takes very seriously. He conducts his everyday duties and responsibilities with diligence. But Scott's job goes beyond just those everyday duties and responsibilities. We often get citizens who have permits as a homeowner contractor. Scott spends a lot of time resolving issues with the homeowners and licensed contractors, but primarily with the homeowners, Scott becomes a teacher. A lot of the homeowners get the permits. They don't really know everything that they need to do, and this is where Scott provides an invaluable service to our community by stepping in and taking the hat of an inspector off and putting the hat of a teacher on. So he really helps out the homeowners in our area, of course, as well as the licensed contractors that we have pulling permits. But Scott's job just does not end with contractors and citizens. Scott is a mentor to less experienced inspectors. We have a lot of inspectors who have less than 20 years of experience, and Scott frequently steps in and offers training and basically mentoring services to those newer inspectors. Scott will frequently take on additional work, not only when he's asked to, but also volunteers to take on additional work without being asked. Scott takes pride not only in his work, but probably more importantly in the results of his work. Scott takes pride in being a valuable city employee. And so please congratulate me on Scott's 20 years of service, and we'll look forward to his next 20 years of service.
Next, we're going to have Bruce Grimes come up. He's the Director of the Real Estate and Property Management Department.
Thank you. It's my pleasure to have Jay Pruitt come up so we can recognize him for his 25 years of service. I have to start out that Jay could have been getting a 35-year award. However, he decided to join the U.S. Navy first and was in the construction battalion, which took him over to the Indian and Pacific Oceans to build facilities there, including a naval hospital in Guam, before then going to Jacksonville and working at the naval base there in construction. But then finally, after going residential construction for a few years as a superintendent, Jay came in 1987 to the city to work for the engineering department. As the engineering department, the project manager, I believe, from what I've been told, his first job there was the 911 center at the police department, and then moved on to that for other projects at City Hall, doing a roofing project and an air conditioning project for there. Probably the biggest thing that works towards Jay is what happened after the city's acquisition in 1993 of the Florida Federal Building, which is now our Municipal Services Center building at the corner of 4th and Central there. At that time, he came into a building that had actually been built in 3 stages in 1926, 1938, and had a garage built in 1972 that he was charged with changing over from a multi-tenant building into a single occupancy structure, starting with the asbestos abatement through the design and rebuild of the facility, the office system layout, and finally, after getting all that done, then he coordinates moving from the 6 satellite offices that everybody was in, 450 people into that facility, which for most of them was leaving wherever they were working on Friday afternoon at 5 o'clock, and him and his team bringing everybody's things over, coordinating the move, and setting everything up to where Monday morning, that's where they reported for work. Those things don't go without notice even today, and although that was in 1995, even with the carpeting program that we did last year, for most people, they never saw it happen. Jay and the people that work for him, most of the time you don't see the things they're doing as it happens during the day, because most of it occurs nights and weekends. From the time they were doing the carpet project, people left again on at night, and the next morning they'd come in and all their things were back in place, obviously with the exception of their files, but all the hard material wasn't. And that becomes a tough thing. But Jay has continued to treat the facility at MSC pretty much since he built it, designed it, and got everything in as his own property, which really makes it hard on the contractors. For additional background, between the construction activities, Jay was also the asbestos coordinator for the city. So he had at one time, I know Jay had over 9, I believe, separate certifications and licenses that dealt with asbestos abatement, identification, planning, radon technician certifications, but most importantly to the city for what he's been doing is he's a certified building contractor. So effectively, he could go out and be building, multi-story buildings. The big benefit to us that gives is the fact that when Jay's working on negotiating contracts for maintenance or for remodels to the facility, they aren't sneaking anything by him in the specs that he's not going to be able to recognize and find and make sure it gets done for the city in the best interest for the city. We, as an example of that, just recently some awards came back in for an HVAC bid for maintenance of the facilities that we have in downtown, the municipal office buildings. The last 3 years, we've spent about $490,000 on those maintenance contracts for a 3-year period. Jay worked with the architect and engineer to revise the bid specs to basically actually increase some of the responsibilities onto the contractor, and then had it rebid out, which purchasing just did. We got it back, and 4 of the 6 bids are below what we had done over the last 3 years, and the one that's going to wind up being recommended is one that's going to save the city $120,000 over the next 3 years. Those are the small things that happen with Jay, and I'm sure a lot of other people. I think one of the interesting things in seeing everybody that gets recognized here today is the fact that you're getting to see the people that are behind the scenes, the ones you don't see. You have the managers, directors, and politicians get credit for everything, and they're the people that are really doing the work. And it's always nice to see them get recognized for the efforts that they do. But Jay's the one that gets the call if there's a broken window, a burst pipe, if there's a alarm that goes off in the middle of the night. He's the one that has to make the determination for what staff and who comes to take care of that. The other interesting piece, and just on personal notes, I'd ask some of the staff that works with Jay and his building staff, obviously, are making sure the buildings are operating, so they're not here, but some of the related staff in real estate came to make sure they're here to recognize Jay for this accomplishment too. So some of the comments that I wanted to make sure that got read in from a personal note for Jay is, first and foremost, he's a huge animal lover. Especially with dogs. He's got a great soft spot in his heart for dogs, and his longtime best friend and girlfriend is Mahi. So, Mahi is by far Jay's twinkle in his eye. I think for Jay, long ago he determined that having a dog was a lot cheaper than having a wife. So, but that's his decision, not mine. Anyway, the other part that people have noted and comments they made about him is that Jay's willing to share his expertise and help others with their with any of the expertise that he can garner them, whether it's construction or vehicles. And they also say that his hard, tough line exterior is undermined by the fact of the random acts of kindness that he does for people. That out of the blue, Jay will do something that helps him that he knows that needs something at the time, and that's a noble trait. He'll deny all those things, but that's neither here nor there. The final comment I'd like to make is that Jay is known to have a fondness for very nice things. He's big on technology and making sure he has the latest technology. Often it's been described as a Porsche taste, but we found that he's been spending a lot of time with a Ford recently. Anyway, thank you and congratulations, Jay, for 25 years.
Next, we're going to have Dave Metz come up. He's with our downtown enterprise facilities.
If I could, I'd ask Don Crawford, who's being recognized for 30 years service, and his wife Debbie to come up front and join us. Debbie is employed by Progress Energy, which is now Duke Energy, and she's taken time off this morning to join Don, and she also has over 30 years services with her company. So obviously there are a couple that starts with something and sticks with it. Don joined the city in July of 1982 as an intern, and a gentleman by the name of Doug Moore, who's the city's former building official, actually suggested to Don that he might consider being an intern. He was a real estate agent in the private sector, so he's got 30 years service with the city. After he came in as an intern in 1982, he quickly moved up through a number of management positions, and basically over 30 years worked with a number of departments in the city with basically contract administration and lease negotiations. So probably he's touched every department. I've had an opportunity to work with him over the last 30 years, and more recently he became part of our department. Last 12 years prior to joining Downtown Enterprise Facilities, he was part of Bruce Grimes' department in real estate and property management. But last year, we had a long-term employee, Joyce Grogan, retire from the city, and we had an opening at the Jamestown Apartments. And that's an important facility for the city, and we thought long and hard about who we were going to place in that position. They're responsible for not only the 72 units which people live in, but also the Dwight Jones Neighborhood Center, which is used by the community and it's used by the Boys and Girls Club, and both are important assets to the city. Teresa Jones, who is leaving the city this week, was there in an interim capacity. Last summer, Don was appointed to the position permanently after he worked in an interim capacity also. And his timing to move into that position was very important to the city. As Councilmember Curran would say, and she chairs Housing Services, and the mayor would say, it was important really to select the right person because Jamestown really needed some attention to a number of issues. And over the past year, we've assembled almost $1.2 million in grant and city funds, basically to start renovating 16 of those 72 units. And we recently completed renovation of the Dwight Jones Neighborhood Center. So as Don went in and he transitioned and worked closely with other city departments implementing these improvements, and we'll be going back to council here shortly with some construction awards for the 2 phases of these 16 units of apartments. But really we needed someone that had a calm hand and a steady disposition to work closely with the community, because when you start moving people around from one apartment to another to accommodate all this work, you have to do it with a little bit of a delicate hand. So Don was the right choice. For the past year and a half, he's been assigned to this department, and he's done a great job. He's worked closely, and he wanted me to mention this, he's worked closely with Clarence Scott and Joshua Johnson. They identified some housing funds which were important to address these deferred maintenance issues at Jamestown. Also with Raul Quintana, who's the city's architect. Raul worked closely with us to identify some energy grant funds. Wayne Finley, he worked with on some grant funds. We actually went under a grant agreement with Pinellas County Urban League to basically approve the energy efficiency of about 10 units. So it's the first step of a lot of work that's going to be done at the Jamestown Apartments. And if you get a chance, Dwight Jones has been completed, it's been renovated, re-landscaped, and it's back open to the public, and the Boys and Girls Club moved in last month. So if you get a chance, go by, say hello to Don. He's happy to be there, and we're happy to have him as a manager in that assignment. More on a personal note, he's married. His 2 daughters are grown. One's in New York. One's a student at the University of Central Florida. And like many of you that were recognized earlier, he is an avid fisherman. And actually, I assumed he was a University of Florida graduate. I always assumed that, but actually he's a graduate of University of South Florida. I guess he's a converted Gator because he enjoys going to Gator football games. And actually that's a connection back to Doug Moore, because when he was very young, his father and him used to be the guest of Mr. Moore at some of the University of Florida football games. So please give me, if you would, a warm reception for Don and his wife this morning.
If I can for just a minute, I want to thank each and every one of you out there that's made this 30 years possible. I could not have done it without you, and each and every one of you, as well as the many people who have already retired and moved on and who aren't here today, have made this possible, and it has been wonderful, and I just thank you so much for all of it.
Next, we're going to have Tammy Jerome come up. She's with our Billing and Collections Department.
Good morning. Good morning. Today we're celebrating two young ladies, each with 25 years of service, Cindy Calkins and Carolyn Ferguson, and I'd like Cindy and her family to come up and join me. We've had a very patient young man waiting in the background. You want to come on over here? Cindy began her career with the city in August of 1987 as a library clerk with Leisure Services. A year later, she transferred to the Billing and Collections Department, where she held the position of customer service clerk. She was promoted in November of 1998 to a Cashier 3 and has served our customers very well in that capacity since that time. Cindy is our most tenured cashier and trains all of our new cashiers, in addition to filling in at our remote payment site, Enoch Davis. We would describe Cindy as dedicated and detail-oriented. An example of this was the year she hobbled to the office on crutches after foot surgery and an early release form from the doctor because she wanted to be there for her peers to assist with their year-end processes. Additionally, her supervisor nicknamed her Hawkeye because she can spot a cash discrepancy from a mile away. And when you're handling in excess of $250,000 a day, that's really important. Another thing Cindy should be proud of is her attendance record. In 25 years, she's only had 3 days of unscheduled leave. In attendance today are her parents, John and Sarah Calkins, daughter Dana, and adorable grandson Damien, who is 7 months old. And as I understand it, Damien calls her Magoo, which was also his very first sound, and Cindy quickly claimed that as his name for her. She loves the beach, boating, and spending a lot of time with the joy of her life, as all proud grandmothers do. Please join me in thanking Cindy for 25 years with the city. And as a side note, some of you in real estate may remember her dad, John. He retired from the city after 20 years in the real estate department. Next, Carolyn Ferguson. Carolyn began her career with the city in February of 1982 after graduating from the city's police academy. After 8 months, she realized that working nights with 2 young children, ages 2 and 3 months old, she needed a change. She stayed with PD but transferred to the comm center as a 911 dispatcher on the day shift. In 1986, she moved to the Water Resource Department as a dispatcher and later took a position as a customer service representative in the Utility Accounts call center. At first part-time, which led to a full-time position. Carolyn was promoted to a billing supervisor in 1999 and was instrumental to the department's successful implementation of a new utility billing software that is in use today and bills for over 90,000 accounts each month. She's still in the billing group and well respected by her coworkers and her supervisors for all of her historical knowledge and insight. Her experience with the utility billing services prompted her to remind her family daily about water conservation. Those discussions have led her husband to be very alert to leaky meters around the city, which he then calls into utility accounts for dispatch to Water Resources for investigation and repair. And that's a committed family. Carolyn is joined today by her husband of 32 years, Ralph. They have 2 adult children, Fontaine and Roderick, and 2 lovely grandchildren, Jayla, who's 6, and Elijah, 4. She enjoys reading and watching college football. She did share with me that her 2 favorite teams are the Gators and the Seminoles, but she did not share which one she roots for when they play against each other. Carolyn is extremely active at Maximo Presbyterian, where she serves as an elder. Please join me in congratulating Carolyn on 25 years. Next, we're going to have Fire Chief James Large come up.
Good afternoon. I want to thank the Employee Recognition Committee for staying for my presentation. I want to let Tish know I'm going to have to budget for another hat rack. Fire department got another Hats Off award. Chuck's not here, so I'm kind of at a loss. Somebody said I had a chance to go after Chuck today because he's not here to defend himself. And, you know, it would be much easier. And what's different? Really? I mean, Mike Jeffries, I want to thank you for the plug for CPR. I was standing next to the rescue chief when you said that, and he said, I approve of this advertisement, this announcement. Speaking of CPR training, I do want to pull out, throw out a plug for the citizens that may be watching. 893-SAFE is the number you call. Fire department provides CPR training. For employees, call 893-7076, and we have, like I said, we have CPR training provided by the fire department, and as you see the stories, it works. Mayor, I did want to agree with you about getting a snapshot today on a couple of cases. On some other ones, we got a photo album, and I'm fixing to provide a full-length motion picture. I was born in, oh no. Okay, let's get serious and bring up Mitch Inkervaya. If you would come up, please. Mitch has 20 years of service with us. He joined the department in July of 1992. He currently serves at our Gateway Fire Station, number 1311600 Roosevelt Boulevard. Do you want to bring up your fiance? She won't come up.
She's very shy.
But she's here. She's going to take pictures. He does have a child, Ariel, and Sonia Lucido is with us as well. Mitch is a state and county certified EMT. He's a CPR instructor. You can call him at 893-7076. He's a peer fitness instructor. He's a fire instructor 3, fire officer 1, certified engine, truck, and heavy rescue diver. What is an engine rescue diver and a truck rescue diver? You're certified engine, truck, and heavy rescue diver. Boy, I'll tell you, when Chuck's not here, I'm lost.
That's driver.
I know, I'm kidding. Hazmat, dive, tech rescue, urban search and rescue team member, occupational health and safety committee member, fitness and rehab committee member. And when he has time on his outside activities, he's a past secretary treasurer for the St. Petersburg Association of Firefighters. He's a Union Station steward. As was mentioned earlier, peer fitness instructor, works with firefighters rehabbing from injuries, rehabbing from weight loss, and personal conditioning. He's a P-TECH instructor. He administers candidate physical abilities tests required for new hires. He's a president of Spring Lake Homeowners Association. He's an active member of St. Ignatius Catholic Church. I present to you Mitch Incravalia, 20 years of service.
Thank you very much.
20 years of service. If I could have Joe Grasso come up, bring your wife. Just want to say it right. His wife, Rosemary. They've been married 38 and a half years. They have 2 sons, Joseph and Michael, who happen to be second-generation firefighters. Joseph's on St. Pete, and Michael is on Lellman. Joe's career was spent as a firefighter paramedic. 20 years of serving as a medic is quite an accomplishment. Everything that you go out and you see day in and day out and you deal with and still come in and have that positive attitude right up until on your last shift. Your last few years, you've been serving at the busiest rescue station in the city. That just shows a tremendous amount of dedication and commitment to that aspect of our profession and making a difference. And Joe, you made a difference every day that you came in. And Joe retired. He's officially retired on the 4th? October 3rd. So he hasn't really retired yet, but Joe is retiring. And we're going to miss him. We wish him all the best. And please join me in congratulating firefighter paramedic Joe Grasso on 20 years of service. Now, for 25 years of service, could I have my right-hand woman come up, Kathy Ziegler, and your family? With Kathy today is her father, Tom, and her son, Jordan. She also has a daughter, Alyssa. Kathy was hired July of 1987. She was hired by a different department. And Chuck lost her to the fire department. Imagine that. So she came over to the fire department, one of the best decisions she ever made, she told me. In 1997, she was promoted to administrative secretary, and then in November of 2007, she was promoted to executive secretary. It's her current position today. She was hired originally as an emergency complaint writer and promoted to dispatcher in 1990, and then, as I mentioned, she transferred to the fire department as an OSS in 1993. She says her department activities, this is funny, she says it's whatever the chief needs me to do. Now that's just politically correct statement by Kathy, because the reality is this would be on mine, and it would say whatever Kathy needs me to do. Because, you know, I get the honor to say I'm the chief, but now I'm going to introduce you to the chief. She really keeps me straight. She does a great job. She's a confidant. You know, you have to have someone that you can bounce things off of, and they keep you straight. Just have a tremendous amount of respect for Kathy. She's, like I say, she's invaluable to me, and I hope that she's here another 25 years, because that's how long I have to stay. She has a Bachelor of Art in Journalism and English from Youngstown State University, and right now she's got her certification in copy editing from the University of California in San Diego, and that helps me a lot when I have to write anything or put anything out. It gets an excellent proof job before I release it. Every once in a while she goes on vacation, and the people out in the companies can tell. As my correspondents come out, oh, Kathy must be off. So, once again, please join me in congratulating Kathy Ziegler on 25 years of service. If I could, for 30 years of service, Andre Robinson, if you'd come up, please. We'll be with you shortly. With Andre today is Cheryl, and Andre is a very humble guy. We ask for them to provide us some information that we can talk about when they're up here, and I got what Kathy typed on the sheet for me was his name and where he's assigned. He doesn't want me to say a lot. I talked to him before we started, and like I said, he said make it quick, so I'm going to make it painfully long for him. And no, I won't do that. I won't do that. But Andre joined the department in 1982. Let me put these back on. And he's assigned at our Lake McGorry Station, number 8, which I know I've mentioned before, is absolutely an outstanding, beautiful station. If you haven't seen it yet, it's 4701 Martin Luther King Street South. He's a department county certified EMT. He's an engine operator. When I was looking for stories about Andre, I did hear one about operating the engine when we were in our temporary station. We had an outside kind of a aluminum cover, and he got the engine wedged up against one of the holes with a handle, and he thought the best way to solve that would be to just go ahead and force his way through. That didn't work out so well, did it? But his outside activities, he does volunteer for Meals on Wheels. And his company officer was here earlier and had to leave, and I talked to him, and he said the one thing that impresses him about Andre, he said, you know, sometimes it's taken for granted, those individuals that come in every day, they know what their job is, they go ahead and do it, they get it done, they don't ask questions, they don't give you problems, and they're just steady, day in and day out. And they set an example for the newer firefighters. And that's what I would say about Andre. And please join me in congratulating Andre on 30 years of service. 35 years of service. If I could have Mike Murray come up and bring your wife Karen with you. They've been married for 41 years. Yeah, surgery, right? Yeah, Mike had a little surgery on his foot, and he's obviously doing pretty good. Those walking boots are tremendous. The days of crutches and all of that are gone. Now we get these walking boots. If you look around and you look at the other firefighters, you notice they're all clean cut. That's because they're still here. He's not like this because he's got an injury. Mike did retire after 35 years of service. As I mentioned, he's been married for 41 years to Karen. He has a son, Mike Jr., who's a lieutenant at Seminole Fire, another second-generation firefighter. It gets in our blood. And he served on our hazmat team. He was a paramedic. He was an engine operator. He was a SWAT medic. He was a state-certified EMT. Mike was one of those did it all throughout his career. Always a go-to guy. Always very dependable. On the outside, and we had the pleasure to do this for many years. We played volleyball on the fire department team. Mike was a very good volleyball player, but today, volleyball is no longer an option, and he's glad of that because he spends all of his free time with his granddaughters. He's extremely proud of them, and as he should be. When I saw Mike today, it brought a tear to my eye because 35 years I've known him, and he's leaving. But it wasn't so much that as it was that I came on before him and I'm still here. So that's why I'm crying. This last month, we've had quite a few individuals retire, and I have to tell you, when you've been here as long as I have and you see these individuals that you've basically grown up with leaving, it is kind of tough. But we have some great young people coming in, but we're losing a ton of experience, and we don't have a lot of fires anymore. And guys like Mike have been invaluable to the new recruits to pass on that experience. And as they leave, like I said, it's a tremendous loss for the city and for the organization and for those new recruits. And I want to thank Mike and Joe for your years of service, and we're going to miss you. I know you won't be strangers, and please join me in congratulating Mike Murray, 35 years of service. Okay. Well, once again, as I wrap it up, I always like to say thank you to all of those that received the longevity awards today, because too often we don't do that, where we forget, for example, water resources. You're our lifeline when we're out there. You're invaluable. You know, finance, the job that you do, keeping everything, you know, making sure all the bills are paid and we get everything we need, and purchasing, and all the different departments. It truly defines a team. Nobody accomplishes really anything here without each other. So I want to say thank you to all of the departments and all of those that received their awards today. Congratulations, and have a great day.
Now we're going to call Ann Fritz to the front here from the Finance Department.
Good morning, everybody. I'm going to be brief here because I'm going to recognize an employee who we've kind of had to twist his arm to come along. And we're going to ask that Albert Brandiff, AKA everybody knows him as Brandy, come forward and receive an award for 30 years of service. It was my pleasure. Last Thanksgiving, when everybody else was home eating Thanksgiving turkey, we were making a lot of changes in the finance department. We centralized the accounts payable function over that weekend. So at the beginning of the week, Brandy transferred to the finance department after many years and Parks and Recreation, and Mike is going to join me for a couple of minutes to talk about Brandy as well. And over the past year, it has been an absolute pleasure to have Brandy in our department. When we have to transfer people to another department for taking over a particular area, we centralized accounts payable, which, as the fire chief said, is one of those underappreciated areas because our vendors want to get paid, but we have to make sure that we have that we just don't literally sit there and write the check. We have to make sure that the process has been followed. And to have someone like Brandy handling those transactions on behalf of all our departments every day, coming with a smile. And like we said, we have 100 words, a picture makes 100 words, a smile makes more than 100 words, and Brandy does his work every day diligently, with a smile on his face, and we are so pleased to have him as part of our team in the finance department. So congratulations, Brandy, and I'm going to let Mike say a few words as well.
Thank you, Ann. I appreciate that. When Ann offered the opportunity to say a few words about Brandy, I absolutely leaped at the opportunity. I can tell you that Brandy is not only a coworker, but a friend. I've worked with Brandy for years and years over in Parks and Rec, and we've talked about, we showed you 4 examples of Parks and Recreation employees and how great they are. I can tell you they're great recreators, they're great out in the field. I can tell you they're not great accountants. I can tell you that Brandy has solved many of our issues when he worked for our department. Our department is one of the largest departments as far as P-card transactions. Brandy was responsible for close to $2 million worth of P-card transactions a year. And as you can imagine, a lot of paperwork, a lot of detail. I cannot think of a gentleman who is more detail-oriented, who's more straight and to the point than Brandy. Brandy volunteers with his church. He again, common theme this morning for my presentations, but Brandy is an excellent mentor. He works with the youth at his church. Very proud of his son, Zach. I can tell you that when Tish and Ann called and really laid out the centralization of AP, the accounts payable, my heart sank. I knew who I had to send over to make this project successful. It was a very easy decision. Brandy was absolutely the best candidate. We hated to lose him, but knew that for the whole, for the city, that it was the best move. I do have one funny story. Brandy, again, extremely detail-oriented and to the point. There was one monthly cycle where Clarence was a little delayed on one of his P-card transactions, and Brandy sent out a departmental-wide email that had Clarence's name on it that he was late. I, as you can imagine, stormed in and said, Brandy, I need to remove Clarence's name. Let's not do that. He said, Mike, if the mayor was late on his P-card statement, I would put him down on the email as well. So I think that Brandy, and it was Mayor Baker at the time, so he obviously wouldn't do that with you. So, but again, best person we could have working in finance, certainly detail-oriented and to the point. So thank you. Congratulations on 30 years.
Thank you very much, and we hope for many more years in finance for Brandy.
Finally, we would like to call Tish Elston to our front here. She's our city administrator for our closing comments.
Thank you, Helene. How about a round of applause for Helene today for taking on, Michael DeMonte couldn't be here. I think she did a terrific job. I've got a whole list of things I need to cover here. So the first thing is I need to thank the ERC committee. We have a group of dedicated employees who make sure that the rest of the employees who come to these ceremonies are properly honored. And they are very, very diligent throughout the year in doing that. So how about a round of applause for them? Next, I would be derelict in my duty. Somehow I've gotten the responsibility to add up all the years of service. And so if I don't do it, and if I forget, somebody always says, you didn't tell us the number of years of service. So this year, this ceremony, we are honoring 1,445 years of service for the people who are being honored here today. It takes so much talent to run a city, and today you got a little snippet of the variety of talent that we have throughout our organization. And I just want to thank those employees. I want to particularly thank their families and the people who came along to support them. We are a big family in the city of St. Petersburg, and having that extended family that we know supports our employees is so important to us. So we're just delighted to honor you today, and we're delighted to have special people in your lives be here for that honor. And I especially want to thank, we actually got both of our 35-year employees here today to the ceremony, even though one of them was retired, and you guys that come back after you're retired, we really appreciate you taking the time to come back. It's important, and you are role models for all the newer people coming up, and it's important for them to see you here. And the last thing I need to do is read the names of the folks who weren't able to make it today. So we do have one or two of them who'll be back next time because they were really sorry they couldn't miss today, but I do want to make sure that we read all the names. So first of all, for 30 years of service, we have our city clerk, Eva Andahar. We have Lauren Kleinfeld from Downtown Enterprise Facilities. From the fire department, Milton Bickley, Curtis Hardy, and Charles Maxwell. From Parks and Recreation, Angelo Galarza and Greg Hart and Kathleen Reynolds, Kenneth Rice. From Police Department, Dave DeKay, David Malk, Randy Morton, and Rick Shaw. And from the Water Resources Department, Martin Miller and John Mora. Those are our 30-year employees. Please give them a hand. We've got just a few 25-year employees who weren't able to be here today. Paris Fogg from Engineering, Rich Tootin from Golf Courses, Linda Fordyce from Libraries. From Parks and Rec, we have Rich Kraft and William Hess. From the Police Department, Colleen Dunphy and Addie Lombardi. And from Sanitation, Kelvin Williams. How about a hand for the 25-year folks? And finally, a few people with 20 years. From Fire Rescue, Michael Sissel and Wade Roberts. And from Fleet Management, Joe Ortiz. From Legal, Bev Isaacs. From Police, Cedric Doss and Eddie Marzol. From Stormwater, Pavement and Traffic Operations, William Brumbach, Edgar Camp, Timothy Darley, and Don Seufert. And from Water Resources, Michael Falsey. Those are our 20-year employees. And with that, if there are no further comments, I will adjourn us for today. Thank you all.